It's probably best that I in my capacity here, but I don't get that.
Right. Okay.
Galveston to South Padre.
You know, as a citizen, I'm interested.
South Padre.
for sure.
I'll have
So they've got a
to
little
take
bit of
hats
white
off
sand.
as
It's
well.
not like this crystal clear
So
stuff.
the Mississippi is responsible for
All of our dirt beaches.
Really? And so we're on the tidal side of that, so the non-tidal side is the Florida side, is why they have
Yep.
it prettier.
And there's no rivers to, go to.
Oh, that is.
If there was a Mississippi River
Or
in the Florida
Rocket.
Panhandle.
They have the same issue.
Well, welcome everybody. Let's since there's new people here involved, why don't we just go around and introduce myself? I'll start. My name is Mike Soto. I'm the chief for the Aransas County Appraisal District. To my right here is Beth Picarazzi. She is an appraiser here. She also does staff work as well. She also handles the majority of the board documentation moving forward. We have Travis McDavid here. He's been a member for how many cycles now?
We talked about that last time, we couldn't come up with a straight answer.
Yeah, he's been here for a while. Actually, and now he's the most senior board member on the board, right?
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. You've been here for as far as the number of cycles.
No, that's an honor.
Uh-huh. Do you get a
Yeah.
plaque? Do you get
Yeah,
anything?
You don't get a please. Go ahead and warn you.
A pat on the
You
back?
don't get anything. You don't get a pat on the back.
I'm used to
either.
being on committees like that.
You should be familiar there.
Yeah. Travis represents, he's one of the two members. He and Larry are, they're represented, or they're appointed by the Aransas County as an entity. The other three members, you have Colleen Quattlebaum, and she's a new member for ACISD. You have Michaela Alston, she's a new member for ACISD. In the corner over there, we have Scott Harrington. He's one of our senior appraisers here. Of course, Larry Ward, and then you have Jack Wright. So that's the whole crew. And we'll start. We have some new business today. It's a new board. We have a new year. We have some exciting information to talk about and some boring information to talk about, but required. So
You vice chairman?
We don't have one.
we don't have one yet, but he's the most senior board member.
Okay, so he just called a meeting to order.
That's correct.
And you can't make a motion to.
That's not true. Surely that's not the case.
And for the record, this is being recorded on YouTube and everything for posterity.
Right.
So,
Social media stars. All right. So we call a meeting to order. 2:04. And we can declare a quorum, I would assume, since we are 100% in attendance. No, we're down one.
Anna is not here.
Yeah, is she not coming?
No, she's not coming.
Okay. well, we still
Did she
have a
make a quorum?
She
She's a
counts towards the,
non-voting quorum member. That's
she
really odd.
counts to,
Yeah.
she counts towards the quorum, but she's a non-voting member.
Is that-
And
Which
that's the way it
hamstrings,
is
could
throughout the
hamstring
state.
the board if
Yeah.
we just had.
Who is it?
Anna Marshall,
Marshall.
the tax assessor collector.
For some reason, I don't understand why you have a member that's, or the quorum, but
Non-voting.
non-voting.
Non-voting, doesn't-
Doesn't- Why?
Let's
Never
be-
mind.
Are we sure of that?
We do that on the EDC with the school district.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You counted toward the quorum, but you
That's
couldn't
just,
vote.
But we
that's
don't.
just awkward.
It seems out of the ordinary.
Okay,
We still have a quorum, so we can move on and consideration and action on the minutes of the December 21st, 2021 meeting.
move approval on the minutes.
Second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Breaking the brand new.
yeah, the pin, the
That's
pin
right,
may have like a
they're
little.
new.
Oh, I
may have
should warn the two new people, do not, upon fear of death, take off with a pen or a legal pad from this meeting. You'll be tracked down.
You may think that these are party gifts, but they are not.
Or definitely something that you've signed that needs.
Yeah,
that
for
we-
sure that.
Don't walk off with those either.
Okay. Item 3, citizens to be heard.
I can check. Have quickly.
Not in the room here, but we always need to check our,
Check our Zoom.
whatever, yes, the cloud.
If anybody's
the-
bored there, sit in.
There's one participant. And that is us. So there's no citizens trying to get in.
Okay. No citizens to be heard. We will move on to item 4, which is consideration and possible action on nominating a board of directors chairman and the board of directors secretary. And answer your question, Jack, I don't think we have a vice chair. I think those are the only two. We're required to have a secretary and we're required to have a chairman.
That means then, in the absence of the chairman, the secretary becomes the senior member and calls a meeting, et cetera, if that were to happen.
Up until the time that, up until this moment where the board elects a chair or appoints a chair and a
The
secretary.
chair's not there, and the secretary will step up.
If the, I'm sorry,
If the chairman is not here, then who takes charge of the meeting? If you don't have a vice chair, it has to be the secretary. It's only other officer for your guidelines.
and Anna was the secretary last time.
We should have a vice chair. Is there any
I
reason
think
we
you should.
can't have a vice chair? Because that's a good point, and it would normally not go to the secretary because many times secretary is
Is a
them,
non-voting.
the tax service is not
That's
voting,
another
which
oddity.
you would not want to be
Yeah.
the chair of the meeting. So,
I'm okay with
well,
whatever you
we
want.
can't do it today, can we? Because we didn't put it on the agenda. We can do chairman and secretary, but we could add it to a future agenda.
Sure.
Could be appropriate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Okay, well, at this time, we can take nominations for chairman of the board of directors. I would like to nominate Jack for the chairman of the board.
Like I
of
said,
directors.
you don't get to nominate.
That's not a rule, is it? I'm not a Robert's Rules of Order guru, but it seems to
Why
me
don't
that's
you need to
a.
nominate somebody?
What?
Why don't you need to nominate somebody?
Why don't I need to?
Anybody.
Typically speaking, the chairman doesn't.
He
or
was
can't
saying
make-
that I was unable to
Oh,
nominate.
because he's chairman of the meeting.
He is null and voiding his nomination.
Watch this, Larry's about to do a watch this. No, he's. You're not nominating anybody.
Hey,
You notice the
Very good
smoke screen
question.
I'm laid out there?
So somebody needs to be nominated. We need to get some action on
I don't hear a
that.
second.
Well, so is that your nom, then I second.
There was still discussion. Jack didn't, I wanted to make sure Jack was
We can open
like
it.
on board
We
with
have a second,
this.
we can open up for discussion, and I will say, are you on board to do it?
I second, so
I-
now do your
I'm
discussion.
happy in the future.
Sorry, so yeah, you can't have discussion without a second.
So I second.
Travis,
Yes.
I knew full well you didn't want it. I don't want it either, but I'll do it.
I don't mind doing the vice if that's what it comes to next time, and of course, if you don't want to do it,
No,
I
I
definitely will.
will, but I think under circumstances with Anna being a non-voting member, if I were to be gone, we need a vice chair.
I think
So
that's
next
correct.
meeting that we take care of that.
Put that on the agenda for sure.
I move that nominations cease and Jack be elected by acclamation.
Then we're gonna have to have the no votes.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, now that we have a chairman, I will turn the, I will turn it over. to
Are you
Jack.
done sweating?
They were all.
You did
ayes,
great,
right?
Travis. I was
No
gonna
opposed.
nominate you.
Thank you. All ayes, no opposed. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we have, item number 3 is citizen, wait a minute.
What about the BOD secretary? Did y'all do that?
No,
No,
we're
we're-
not.
no.
Thank you.
We're on to that.
All right, I'll entertain, well, no, wait a minute.
She's
We'll-
not.
We'll find. We'll entertain motions for the board of directors secretary.
I'll nominate Anna.
Okay, now, is there a problem with Anna doing it? There's no, shouldn't be. I mean, she doesn't have to vote to be secretary.
Didn't we have Jerry be the secretary in
I
the
think
past?
Jerry was
Jerry is always the secretary in the past. Jerry Cox.
Cox. Before
The
Anna.
previous-
Yes, and-
In her position.
All right, then I would also say, if it's the desire to have Anna as a secretary, because of the rules involving what a secretary does, we should have a vice secretary. Because she's frequently not here.
But then your vice president
Is there
also
such a
is your
position?
acting secretary.
You can handle it that way, your
Yeah,
vice
that would
chair.
be- Let's do that.
Is your handwriting legible?
Nope.
Teasing.
But again,
It
You're
is,
perfect.
it is horrible.
okay, we have
Okay.
Anna Marshall on the table as a motion anyway for secretary. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? Let's just consider the logic that the vice chair becomes the secretary in the event that Anna's not here.
Did you call for a vote?
Will not, but I am now. All those in favor of Anna being board secretary, please say aye. Aye.
Hi.
Okay. there we go. Now, you're gonna need to explain, particularly to the newbies, what correction or misidentified, unidentified school district is under item 5 and 6.
I certainly will.
And are you secretary today?
She's
I'm okay.
writing, she's writing.
That's great. I'll make sure. Okay. Make
I
sure
got you.
make sure I have no responsibility other than.
Oh, wait, here.
I think there's the official role of secretary, and then there's the person who keeps the minutes.
All right, we're ready to move on to item 5.
Yes.
Okay, in item 5, consideration of possible action of the board rule under tax code section 2525 Bravo, allowing the correction of misidentified or unidentified school district. Specifically relating to this, it requires a board action in the board of directors and a ARB board. It's clerical error for all practical senses. We have the appraisal district staff, but we also have Pritchard and Abbott that does some appraisal work for us. What do they do for us? They do industrial, mineral, they do some ag work for us. In this particular case, we identified a property that was industrial in nature and said, hey, listen, this is outside of the normal scope that our district staff does. Can you pick this up? Yes. Where is it? Rockport Terminals. Great. We'll pick them up. When they did so, they put all the entities correct except for the school district. Because it was in Aransas Pass, they just assumed that it was in the Aransas Pass Independent School District, but it was not. It's in Aransas County Independent School District, and therefore it was misidentified. All that this action, and we have an associated resolution that follows this, right? That?
Yeah, he probably did.
And that we're gonna need some signatures on. But
No one's after the minute.
right after the minutes,
No.
Drawings of fiber lines. It's after the building stuff, resolution adopting rules that add authority. Is that it?
yeah, yes.
Yeah, it should be the resolution and right behind is the property card.
Get the original minutes from-
Oh, sure.
So it's the resolution adopting rules to add authority. Is that the resolution?
That's the
we're
one,
looking at?
yes.
And this is the cars.
And this is the property card behind it. And you'll note that on the top of the property card, in the very top center section, it says entities.
Mhm.
Every entity always has the CAD, that's the appraisal district. CAP is the city of Aransas Pass. And this is in the year 2021, by the way. So in the year 2021 is what we're talking about. GAR is the county, navigation is navigation district, SAP is the school Aransas Pass, and that's what needs to be corrected. XSP is this county special road and bridge. And so basically, there's a board rule resolution that's in front of you now, whereas Texas Tax Code 2525 Bravo provides the chief appraiser may change the appraisal role at any time to correct the certain errors identified in this section that may change any other inaccuracy prescribed by the board rule. The rule's about to happen. That does not increase the amount of tax liability. And whereas the board of directors of Aransas County Board has determined that the rules should be adopted, authorizing the chief to change the appraisal role for any tax year at any time to correct, number one, a misidentified school district, number two, a school district not identified in the appraisal role. So what's going to happen is we're going to take off Aransas Pass, we're going to put on Aransas County. So that's why you need the two. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the board adopts as following rules. The chief appraiser may, under Texas Tax Code 2525 Bravo, change the appraisal role for any time, at any time to correct the property listing containing a misidentified school district to include the correct school district in which the property is located to remove the incorrect school district. Number two, in instances where a property listing does not include the school district, the chief appraiser may, under 2525B, change the appraisal role for any tax year at any time to correct the property listing to add the correct school district for which the property is located. In today's date is the 15th of February, 2022.
So we need a motion to adopt the rules change.
A motion to adopt the resolution.
Call for resolution,
Yeah.
which is the rule.
which is a board rule.
Got it.
Why, do you not have the authority? We'll even go to discussion. We have a motion.
He points to you.
Also-
Oh, no, we made a motion. I mean, we can go to discussion, but we're giving you authority to make this change. We're not specifying the school district that you're changing or anything like that. You not already have this authority, and why do we need a board resolution to give it to you? Is this indefinite authority that we're giving you to do it in the future, or why are we doing this?
Because
Why can't you just go do it?
Because if I could do it, I would do it. I do a lot of things under 2525B, which you're about to see a supplement.
I wasn't questioning the correctness of it.
Yeah.
It was just a question of this is a general authority to do it.
It seemed like a minor clerical.
person.
The reality is that I've been instructed by my counsel that this is the way.
It's a great answer, Mike. That's, I'll go with that. it was just a question.
If you look up any retentive and.
So my motion got a second?
I'll give you a
Yes.
second.
But wait,
Yes.
I have a question on it then, for the funding purposes of it. How long has it been misidentified? And then does the school district get credit?
Yes.
So they're gonna withdraw from AP.
So the answer is yes and yes. As soon as I was made aware of it, roll was certified in late July.
Okay.
Tax bills went out. No word. The guy who has Rockport Terminals gets his bill and says, "Hey, I'm about to pay it. Hey, doesn't look right. I paid my school taxes to Aransas County last year. This is wrong." This was like 15 days before the delinquency date, at which point I notified both assessor collectors, "Hey, you're not gonna get your piece and you're gonna get your piece early."
Okay.
Both assessor collectors are fully aware of the situation revolving around this property.
Okay.
And it was a 1 year.
It's a
problem.
It's a one-year
it's a-
issue.
Because this was the first year in which I told my appraisal company, Pritchard Hammett, the industrial appraisal company, to say, "Hey, go pick this up." Instead of SAR, they put SAP.
Okay.
It's really that
Simple.
clerical.
Okay.
I mean, it's just a clerical.
It's the tempest in the teapot.
I mean, I'm really telling you, we're having to do, you see the hoops we're having to jump through, so, this is where we are.
Okay.
Which brings me to a question. You know, along 188 and some other areas, there are properties obviously in Aransas County, but that the students are enrolled in Aransas Pass Independent School District. Is that true with respect to the taxing entity as well?
No, the taxing entity, a school district line has a definite boundary line between Aransas County and Aransas County Independent School District and Aransas Pass Independent School District. And we just go along the boundary line. So wherever the line says it's in this district or that district, that's all we do. It's like a city limit line.
Okay, is it the same as the county line?
No.
That's the question I was asking.
No.
I knew that years ago when Charlie Marshall was his 40 whatever year tenure in Aransas Pass, and the little school districts between here and there were divvied up, they got some that would have otherwise been ours. But I didn't know where the tax dollars went from that regard.
I can, that's part of a shape file that I'd be glad to share with this board. What are the future?
I just have a curiosity.
Yeah, it's basically a city, it's like a city limit line. It's the two school districts at one point said, "Okay, this is ours, this is yours," and that's what.
Has nothing to do with county line.
Nothing to do
Mhm.
with
They have their own lines.
They have their own lines.
And
Charlie,
they make,
what-
and they make 0 cents.
Yeah, they go.
I mean, they really don't.
They actually go through,
They probably
they actually go through a couple of large properties, like
Mm-hmm.
we have to split them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Really.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Yeah,
Motion,
Larry
second.
Second, yeah.
And discussion, so we're all good.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
we're gonna get the secretary to sign that at some point. Or the,
Not until we name it.
So then I would, in this case, do a second, like, or I guess the vice president can sign. That's what we said, right?
yeah, but the vice has not been,
We don't have.
Right,
that
right,
one
right,
either.
right, but for
Were it
next
to happen
time.
next meeting,
Yes.
yes.
Okay,
Okay, that dispenses with item 5. Now we're at item 6.
consideration possible action relating to the change orders for the construction contract for the removal and safe and the computer cabling. Now, just as a point of clarity, there was language that was given by this board to me to both execute the contract and kind of move forward with the construction activities. And now, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the way I understood everything.
Yes,
So these change orders that you have, there's three. One doesn't involve any money. The other two involve something on the order of magnitude of the total contract at like 1%. So one is, the safe was not included in the original bid for whatever reason. It has to be removed. That's the number. The second thing that you have in front of you is some more cabling conduit. And what we don't have in front of us is the actual cabling cost, which I don't have yet. I had a meeting with both the architect, the construction supervisor, and Colin Jackson over at County IT. And Colin has already sent over the specifications for the cabling conduit to go through, for the cabling to go through the conduit, and to get everything ready for the fiber optics so that we can put it in our system over there. So the two change orders that you have in front of you, I don't know if you want me to do it this way every time. I'm just covering my bases. As far as I see it, there's things that come up. There's, this is 1% of that contract. I want to move forward with things. I don't want to stop things that are going on over there, but I don't know what this board would like me to do moving forward.
information only. We gave you the authority so that we didn't have to have a special meeting
Right.
to adopt a change order that we might not have been able to get a quorum together for.
Gotcha.
You need to act.
Okay,
That's
so
why we gave you that. So
Okay.
this is just information only.
okay, good. Okay, well then I'm just covering my bases. Moving forward, I'll get change orders. I will inform the chairman of any future change orders, but I'm just gonna move forward. Is that okay? Everybody's in agreement with that? Okay. Just want to be transparent about the whole situation.
Okay.
Another thing that came up during the initiation of the construction activities was we had some, obviously this is a smaller facility than the facility we just came out of. We moved as much as we could. There was some stuff over in the old boardroom. We had to get it moved. We moved it to the storage facility that we have our other files that we've had from the previous hurricane disaster damage. So we had some costs associated with that. I think we put that in there.
It is 265215.
Yeah, that's a Mayflower thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's associated with that cost. These are just things that have to be done to move forward. I don't know, as it relates to quorum and it relates to the Open Meetings Act, but I would like this board to actually walk through the building over there, but I don't know if we have to continue the meeting and then come back because of, or maybe we can go over there and not communicate. But basically, I want you to see how much progress has happened. I'm really excited about it. So
We can do it July then.
we can.
Unless you're going to give us something that says you're going to change from the original work here,
No.
then no, it's just information only.
Okay, good. Yeah, I want y'all to see it. It's awesome. We're really excited about the progress that's happening over there. So can we have an action on this? And then just so I'm aware, you've given me the authority to kind of move forward with this stuff. So we don't really need an action item. It can just be in a chief appraiser's report moving forward. Is that correct?
Yeah, you've made it an action item. Going forward, we've agreed it's not necessary.
Okay, good.
I'll entertain a motion regarding the two change orders.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
That safe, by the way, was the teller vault, the night drop vault, which is what, about 4 foot by 6 foot, something like that.
It's heavy.
It's built in.
Did you want to do an amount not to exceed,
I signed it.
like to where? I mean, give them the authority up into 50,000 kind of thing, to where it sounds,
I thought we had talked earlier about a number.
That was the last scope of work when we had change orders. Correct me if I'm wrong, Travis, it had to do with the previous scope of work, which was the roof. And you said you can go ahead and make changes up to, and I think you said $15,000 at that time.
Sounds right. We've done that before.
And I'm okay with that.
Don't know that was on this.
I would just
But-
do
but
that
the-
to where it's a,
But the 50,000 is a hard number anyway, because anything that I do a change on $50,000, I'm required to go to bid. The order of magnitude from it's 331 was the original contract. the individual change orders are 1% of that. They're like $3,000, $4,000. So if you want to put a limitation on it, great. That way everybody feels good about it. I did it in air of transparency.
Right.
I want y'all to be informed, but I want to move forward fast. So pick a number.
Well, it's not optionable today when you bring that up next meeting.
Okay.
I agree with you. It probably should at least some number, so he doesn't go
Just
spend a
some,
couple
yeah.
hundred, you know.
Yeah.
But let's bring
But
that up.
he's
But-
Checks and
already got a
balances.
number. He's got anything 50,000, he's up to 50,000,
15.
he's gotta take action.
Well, that was for I'm recalling a previous kind
So
of.
then just add it for
We need
next
to add it
meeting, for
agenda.
next
We'll set a
agenda.
chat.
You wanna write that down?
Well, we did, for information only, it would be good. We have a budget for the project, right? We have a budget, we have money to make through the project.
That's correct.
I would appreciate if you're gonna add change orders. I really don't know what they mean if I don't know how they relate to our budget. So if you do it, I like to know, hey, we know these change orders, but we still have a surplus for making lease payments we're doing because we do have some,
The number that sticks in my head, Travis, was 369 on the 331. So we had about 30 some odd thousand over. But yeah, you want those numbers.
yeah, and we had forecast lease payments on this, you know, and if we go over, it just would be good so that we can track how we are to budget.
Sounds good.
Because to me, change orders, I doubt they're, unless they're to put in a, you know, you need a gold restroom or something, I doubt that there are things that aren't necessary to complete the building. It's just, so my concern would be, where's that put us in a cash standpoint?
Yeah, for sure.
So that,
Well pointed. Okay,
Takes us to item number 7, chief officials report.
okay, chief appraiser's report, there's a supplement detail that's now for UDA members, that's actually called a summary of certified role changes. And it's kind of a landscape breakdown.
And there will be one that's actually in the tablet that is not print out.
Yeah, so this right here is a 1-page document right here, is that all we have? We have 1 page. From the last time, we have group 385, group 386, 387, and 388. There's no action that you can really take on this as a board, but I'm required to tell you about it for you new members. And you previous members, you'll remember that this is just my supplemental role changes, and I'm required to tell it to you. So in supplemental group 385, you'll see the years in question on the left-hand column. The section of the code, which is 2525C, we have 1143I, 2525 Bravo, and 2525H. Those are all either chief appraiser motions, they're exemption removals, they're homestead caps due to late filing exemptions. These are basically changes that happen after the certified role. The best way for me to explain it to you new members is on July 25th or soon thereafter, I'm required to get a roll. And it's like I take a roll of paper and I put my seal on it and I say, this is the value this year. And anytime I change it, whether it's exemptions or adding value or taking value away or chief appraiser motion or a joint motion, I'm required to break that seal and do the change and then seal it back up and keep a record of that change and tell you about it. And this is what this is. Any questions? All right, it's just a reporting thing, so there's nothing in the motion there. Okay, the next thing that we have is the financials. On your financials, let me get to that page. I have a couple of different financials. Last year, you'll have to remind me about this. I did the last year, which is says it's a 20. Last year. Should be on the. You have 2 Excel spreadsheets or just 1?
I have the January, which reads January to January.
Yeah.
And then we have the top one is January to December 2021.
That's the one I need. Yeah, January through January 2021. And you can see basically that's a reconciliation from the last year's. It is in the tablet.
It
if you don't-
should be, yeah.
It's a reconciliation of last year's, basically our charges, basically are what we budgeted for and how close we hit our budget. You can see that we're over budget. We're 104% down at the bottom. It's kind of right in the middle. You can see the percentage there. We're 104% of value of what we should have spent to what we did spend. The majority of that cost you can see is in the legal expense. That was the legal, we've been talking about this for a year and a half now. And we're looking to hopefully mitigate that loss in the future. But all I can say is I can't help how much people sue us in regard to value. We have a number of lawsuits that are moving forward. And for you new members, I've told the older members here that anytime I have a question as it relates to the law and the property tax law, I ask and I get my attorney involved to give me good counsel moving forward because I want to do things in the correct fashion. So you can see that we're over budget by a goodly amount in the legal fees. And that really represents the largest portion of the overage that we had in the 2021 cycle.
And if you, just so I understand what I'm looking at here, on the January only, January 2022, the last column to the right of legal services is 130,127. Is that what we budgeted for this next fiscal year?
On the last column to the what now?
To the right of legal services. In your third quarter, if you look down from above, you see 130,127 figure.
No, sir. That if you try to separate these into two separate columns, so really you're looking at two different spreadsheets like this, Jack.
Okay.
So this is separate and parcel to the other stuff to the right. The stuff to the right is our actual intake. That's our actual what we get from the entities and their portion.
Okay, so I'll rephrase the question. What did we budget for legal fees for the 2022?
We budgeted our legal fees in 2022 were $22,000.
Some of you have.
Okay, well, but that's the same figure that we budgeted for 2021, 22,000.
Let me see.
For the year that's closed, we have a $22,000 on which we spent 72. Okay. For 2022, we say the same 22,000. Why would we have budgeted 22,000 when we quadrupled it from last year?
And we know that we have many pending.
That's a
litigations.
good question. We brought this discussion up last year, and you'll recall that we're required to do our budget in May. And we may not have had some of that information at that time. I hear what you're saying to me,
Okay.
Jack, but here's the opportunity that this board has in front of it for this year's cycle. We obviously know that we've overspent, and we did overspend in last year's, but not quite to this extent last year in 2020. So we're talking about 2021 here, but in 2020, we did not spend to that amount. So in this year's May meeting, which is really, we do a May meeting before the budget meeting that's required in June 10th, this board will have an opportunity to increase that legal budget. And that will be my recommendation.
No, you're good. Thank you.
But if you look at that amount and you look at the total amount that we're over 45,000. And if you look just in the legal section, we're over 49,000. That represents all of it.
So what are we seeing going? I know last year we saw a lot of challenges on our initial was a lot of it due to changing valuation processes and things like that. Is that still driving it, or now you're just seeing it more general based on your changes in valuations?
There's two things. We have a couple of big players out there from, and what I mean by that are tax agents, and they just play the numbers game. They'll throw a whole bunch of our way and hope, and then they'll mitigate. They'll triage the ones that they think that are most viable to win, and then they'll try to settle all of it. Like, and they're kind of holding these back to say, well, we need to talk about these, and then they'll try to settle on all of them. So what that does is it basically increases my legal costs, because I have a mandate to respond. We, the district, have a mandate to respond to the suit. And all of that is just accruing time and effort, in our district's time and effort. I wish I had a good answer.
Well, no, my question is not really along the lines of what is it and are we winning, losing, or how's it going? But it's more if when we knew that there was a trend around evaluation process change, we knew it was gonna happen for a while until those played out. So in 2020, you didn't have near this volume. 21, the volume went way up. 22, it looks like it's totally steady. What I'm trying to figure out is, do we ever get back to a 2020, or does it look like we have new players that just like to sue that are here for the long term? Or are we still riding this wave of a couple of particular changes? You know what I mean?
I think it's and both. I think if you're asking me, I think it's and both. And what I mean by that is that we have a market that's still robust, at least until it flattens out at whatever point that is. And so you will have continued increasing values. I'm going to talk about how we've done as an appraisal district in just a minute. We've done really well. But you will have continued, hey, that's gone up by too much, it's too quickly. Yeah, we agree. You're the one that bought it for that. I mean, so we cannot help when people sue. And I don't think it's a trend that we'll see that goes away.
And that's why I asked for budgeting purposes only is, what do we expect? Because at one point we did have discussions about, well, this is uptake due to changes that were made in valuation processes, things like that. But I hope there will be one wave of litigation that will settle and then we'll move on. But it's looking like we did not know that we were going to have the massive inflation evaluations and everything on the tail end. It looks like it may be more of a constant. To Jack's point, we may need to adjust our budget going forward on legal.
And the reality is, to that point, and I'm not going to name, it's a matter of public record if anybody wants to look, but I'm not going to name the lawsuits. But I will say that we worked in good faith last year for the 2020 cycle to try to mitigate some of our legal costs. And we settled some cases, but then they turned right around and they sued us again this year. And we're like, no, we're going to have to go to the mat on this. And that's kind of my position right now.
But I think this is a growing trend in the way too, that the state has now mandated taxing commercial properties and things like that. And if you look at every development that's coming in, you've got a commercial front in front of it. So you're going to have this battle, I think, continuing until the state says.
That's my thought.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm with Jack 100%. The legal battles are going to only grow with the way that commercial development is growing in this town. So
Well, it's not just that it's growing, it's that the comptroller's office expects us to do so on the income approach.
right.
His challenge is going to be, you've got $250 million worth of commercial projects, all housing related, that are not yet finished. You have to tax them at some level, year 2 or 3, when they're fully or nearly fully.
Mhm.
Then you're going to have another huge jump. So
Mhm.
I guess I'm just laying the groundwork for it. I think I'd love for you to be conservative and be correct, but I would say it would not be a good idea, absent of something that convinces us otherwise, to set our legal budget for the next planning cycle to be less than what we spent last year.
I agree with that sentiment. And that's a discussion that this board can be mindful of when, in the way that we've done it in the past, for the new members, is I've always had a meeting in May, because we always have a meeting deadline June 10th. So I like to have it a month to 2 weeks early so that we ask all the questions, we get all the answers. So this board feels good on our deadline date that this board can actually adopt the budget. And that I think we should absolutely be mindful of the legal ramifications.
I would recommend taking what you spent last year in legal and have that be your baseline at least, and then add 10% just to CYA. And
Keep in mind, you're going to have the same trouble that I had wrapping my head around the fact that this is a calendar year operation. The school district is
is it different?
August
Mhm.
August through July. The county's different yet. County and city are October year end or October year beginning. and having to do a budget in May that's not effective for another 7 months later, it's just, juggling
I
it.
mean, I get that.
But I
I'm
still
just-
agree
I'm-
with your sentiment.
I think you take what your legal was this past year, that's your baseline, and I would add, because you know it's only gonna keep going, and that's my recommendation to you.
well, Michael will also tell you, he knows that I give him a hard time because I can't give his attorney a hard time because he'll bill me for it, is that there is so much complexity in what we're expected to do with respect to an appraisal district. I think Michael will cover it here in a few minutes about how the comptroller's office is looking at us and other entities in the state and say, you're not doing your fair share. Heard that before.
Mhm,
We're always going to be in the spotlight.
Mhm.
Always.
mhm.
And last year, I'll cover this now. Remember 20 years ago when I said the comptroller's office found that we did not have proper local values? And the TEA sent us a letter for $750,000 that they'd been overpaid.
Mhm,
Well, we came real close to that last year,
mhm.
In the
but we-
19th.
but we prevailed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, just really quickly on the other Excel spreadsheet, if there's no other questions for last year's, then the best way you can look at this is that you can look at, I take the number of months that is included, divide that by 12, I use a percentage, so January represents 8%, and you go all the way to the bottom, and we've spent 9.5%. Some of these costs are front-end loaded, so that you won't see it for the rest of the year, so, we're on track so far.
IT replacement.
IT replacement, we always keep some for anything, like if we have both, it's not the server stuff, wait, the stuff at the top is, hang on,
Look at that 13.8 though, on this.
the backup servers that are offsite, the data systems.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about, the IT replacement. We have an offsite server that backs up everything.
Did we budget 7 for an expenditure or 14 on our recall?
You budgeted 13.8.
For an expenditure of 7.
That's that,
Yeah, but
The actual
that's
is,
2022.
the actual 13.8.
yeah,
January?
and the reason for that is
We
because
approved 7.
the reason for that is because the tax office pays half. It's really 13.8, they pay us half.
Another
That's why it said,
complexity.
Yeah.
I knew there was an answer, but I just.
that's why we have a note that says half held by tax office to the right of that.
Thank you.
But I knew where you were going, I was like,
Very good.
on the right-hand side of both of those things, you'll see the apportionment for what we expect to be paid by the entities themselves. We rarely talk about that at all. And that's it for the financials. Any other questions? Okay, moving forward, I want to talk about these two documents.
Pause just for a second. When you send out information, particularly for people that might get hold of this and not have the same level of knowledge about these, this is not a balance sheet. This is an income statement. Michael and I are going to try to take the audit from last year and build a balance sheet that will go with this, so we can see the ebb and flow of increases in revenue that would add to the bottom line of the balance sheet. And when we have that, we'll call it a balance sheet and income statement.
Okay, was it called a balance sheet?
And the notes going out, I think it was called such as balance sheet.
Thank you for that.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. And just so you know, I've already talked to Joe, she's already got the audit full, ready for you to receive it, so good, and to talk about it. Moving forward, there's two documents that say Comptroller of Texas Government. As you know, the district Comptroller has oversight over the district, and there's two basic tests. Every year, or every alternate year, you'll have a property value study. In the intermediate years, you'll have what's called the methods and procedures review. And I have a good example of both of these because we're in this cycle right now where we just received our documentation from last year's 21 property value study. And we've just completed the exit form for the map review in 2022. So we have both results sitting in front of us right now. And I want to just shout some congratulations to my staff. I just want to tell you how great that they are. Man, they are knocking it out of the park. We passed our property value study. You can see that both of the school districts, it's always done on the school district. That's the test. It's basically school funding. And it's a confidence interval. And all you're looking for is you're either within the confidence interval or you're outside. And if you're outside, you have trouble like Jack alluded to before, and both of these were inside. To add to this, I had a conversation with my attorney and he says there's a record number of failures this year, more than they've ever had before. In that same cycle, we passed. And you know what values we're going through in the local area, and we were able to keep up in a way that was satisfactory to the comptroller. So I just want to just applaud my staff. They did a great job.
That's a big deal.
It is a big
That's a
deal.
big deal.
It's a big deal. Moving forward, not only did they knock it out of the park and property value study, you can see on the map review exit form, that's a methods and procedure. We have a comptroller that does an on-site visit. She basically goes through our files. That person will ask for exemption forms, they'll ask for board of directors minutes, they'll ask for, and give me another example, they'll ask for ag manuals, they'll ask for anything. I mean, and basically they go through your files and say, okay, you say you're doing this in a prescribed manner, where's your documentation? And I'd like to just report that we have 90 questions here. We got 88 out of 90 correct. We got all passes on our main scores. Again, huge win.
And for the new ones, they might already know this, but they explain, Mike, that this is every year, that you get the map and then the property and the map and then the property, it never stops. It's
Yeah,
not
it's
random.
one after
It's-
the other, just,
It's
just
administrative one year and then property value the next, and we used to have the luxury of having the realtor.
right, the MLS. We used to have the luxury of having the MLS, and now we're just having to work harder to find what stuff
Blinded.
sold.
That's it, and so I only bring that up because I do think that that's worthy of a pat on the back, that in a year like this, where the property values are in such flux, that you have that many failures, that without any input from the MLS,
Good job.
I think that's a huge deal.
That being said, when the opportunity comes up for us to approach the.
We still need the
local
MLS.
realty board, we need to ask them again. There's nothing, no harm in saying, but we need it.
Oh, no, just because we made it through, I
Yeah.
agree.
I
We
agree.
just dodged the howitzer is all it was.
I agree with that sentiment. I am, again, I'm grateful for my staff. I'm grateful for their efforts. It's evident in a record year where people are failing across the state, that we passed. So that's a big one.
It's a huge deal, and the risk is really not, I mean, obviously, we don't like to fail, but the risk is to
School district.
the risk is to this, yeah, I mean,
I mean.
we're just a steward.
Mhm.
The last thing that, as far as the chief appraiser's report is just the walkthrough on the building. I really want to do that. Oh, I'm sorry. There's two other things. There was a small overage on the financials on these personnel services. The reason for that is we had, this board authorized Taryn to come on a month and a half early, 2 months early. And then also we had somebody that was retiring that was due some back pay, like she had some accrued vacation. So that's the overage. It was about $7,000 total, I think. The last
But
thing,
we knew we had the variance on the early hire.
yeah,
I guess the other one was, weren't aware of it at the time.
yeah, the other, when somebody leaves, whatever their sick time, they get half time for their sick time, and they get whatever vacation pay that that's accrued and you have to pay them out. So that's basically, and you can never know. You have to do it the year before the year that they actually retire for that cycle. So it would have been a budget that you would have done, that this board would have done in May of 20. There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way you could have done.
Okay, and I know you know this because I told you that, Colleen, you know, appraisal districts are not participants in the social security system, nor are they teacher retirement. They have their unique little retirement program. So when you look through these, you'll see a retirement package and it will scare you as high as it is. But that's because they don't get any other contribution, any workers match or whatever. So it's quite a bit of difference. Yes.
Why is that?
Appraisal district set it up that way a long time ago. They just-
Like across the board?
Across the state,
Yeah.
you rarely find an appraisal district that's not part of what's called the Texas County Retirement System.
Huh.
And they've kind of attached themselves to the county retirement. Yeah, they just moved forward with that.
Interesting.
One of the last thing, it was not on the agenda, but I don't think it requires really a board action from the standpoint. It is a document that the board, the chairman of the board signs, but it's basically the understanding that the audit takes place. It's your authority to say, yes, this company can do an audit of this district. So if you feel better doing it in next year's or next month's cycle, you can do it. I just don't want to delay Streely's audit of the district.
Is doing it in the next meeting gonna delay? Well,
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, if it is, just let us know. We'll figure out what to do with it.
Okay. Because I don't think it requires board action.
Well, the only question that I have is,
You're welcome to look at this. I mean, you obviously you're gonna read it before you sign it.
yes, that's the point. Look, my point is this, are we required to go out for a bid on a every so many year cycle? Or can we just go back to the same auditor?
I don't know the legal.
And don't make one up right now. Let's just find that
I
out.
agree.
Okay, so hold on to this until we get the answer to that. We'll communicate to the chairman and then he can inform the board of how he should move forward. And then with that, we can, I'd like to walk through it together so that we're under recording. This is gonna be an empty room for those of you watching at home. But we're still subject to the Open Meetings Act, and then we'll communicate over there. We'll come back, we'll adjourn, and then we'll be.
I think I sent you that picture.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. I should have taken a picture of the clock and belt, so
I'm gonna see if I can
courthouse behind it.
Google it, just because I'm sure I can, and figure out what year.
Thank
Taking it for. Yeah. I leave it on.
Well,
Did you get off? Oh, yeah.
Appraisal, I mean, sorry.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Probably won't. Yes. Gonna get it all straight.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I very much. So.
Well, it's 7:09.
Anything else we can talk about?
waiting, my dear. Not that I- You've done your deed. Is that everything you wanted to do? Or? I've got your land schedules. Jackie. Oh, Scott? Do I have your land schedules?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Well. just Need to know you change. This is.
I know, it's pretty.
Very good. All right.
You know, Charter Bank has a natural gas powered generator that's got a hose on it, it's nearly 2 inches. I mean, I don't know what it uses per hour, but we found that we could run the entire bank off of it, whereas the other 2 locations, third when it came online later, they could just barely run the televisor with less traffic. So they could run their,
What around there?
well, they had to have a bigger generator than they had. That's all it was. We did pay that. Okay, we've covered all of the items on all the way through the chief officicer's report. So that being said, the meeting is adjourned.
Good job.
All right. Shut off the recording.
Just a couple of things for the 2 of y'all. If you stick around for 5 minutes.
Been a long period.
You want me to?
Yeah, I'll
like,
do it.
Okay.
It's okay.
If you want to.
Thanks for being.
You are welcome. Figure I was right
Listen,
there.
I got